The Cretan sun did not forgive anyone that day, neither kings nor mice, and much less the human cargo that was rotting on the deck of the pirate ship. The smell was an unbearable mixture of sea air, old sweat, and the acidic fear that escapes from the pores of those who know their life is over. Men cried, huddled in corners. Women looked at the horizon with the glazed look of someone who has already given up on their soul. And in the middle of that floating hell, a dirty old man with his tunic torn and his beard was stained with salt, he was sitting calmly, chewing a piece of hard bread, as if you were at a banquet on Olympus. The pirates didn't understand. They were used to terror. Terror was their currency. When they captured someone, they expected pleas, promises of rescue, cries for mercy. But that old man looked at them with absolute boredom. It wasn't courage. It was something worse. It was indifference. When the pirate captain, a brute named Sipsilo, passed by kicking the prisoners to see who was alive, stopped in front of the old man. The pirate growled, expecting to see the prisoner tremble. The old man just looked up, swallowed the bread, and asked if the ship would take long to arrive, because the food served on board was offensive to the taste of even a stray dog. The pirate laughed, but it was a nervous laugh. That man, Diogenes of Sinope, the dog, had just been kidnapped. His physical freedom had been revoked. He was chained to a fate of perpetual servitude or death. And yet, the one who seemed trapped there was the pirate, a hostage to the need to intimidate. Diogenes knew something that none of those armed men knew. Chains only bind the wrists. The mind is a territory that no steel can conquer unless you hand over the keys. And he never handed over the keys. They arrived in Corinth, the slave market, the place where human dignity is sliced, weighed, and sold by the kilo. The noise was deafening. Merchants shouted prices. Buyers felt muscles as if choosing cattle. Slaves tried to appear stronger or younger to avoid being sold to the silver mines, where life expectancy was measured in months. The auctioneer, a fat, sweaty man who smelled of cheap wine and greed, climbed onto the dais and ordered the special batch to be brought. Diogenes was pushed to the center. The crowd looked on with disdain. He didn't have the muscles for field work. She didn't have the young beauty to serve as a lover. He did not have the submissive posture of a domestic servant. He was just an insolent old man. The auctioneer, trying to save the sale, shouted to the crowd, "What can this man do?" Silence hovered. They expected him to say he knew how to cook, or clean, or maybe read and write bills. Diogenes looked at the mass of sweaty faces, bored rich people, and decadent nobles. He puffed out his chest, pointed his finger at the sky, and shouted with a voice that cut through the noise of the market like a blade, "I know how to govern men." Laughter. Laughter exploded throughout the market. A slave who claims to know how to govern men? It's the perfect joke. But Diogenes did not laugh. His gaze swept the crowd, judging each of them, stripping them of their silk robes and their social pretensions, until landing on a well-dressed man with an expression of melancholy and excessive wealth. Xeniades, a man who had everything, but seemed to have nothing. Diogenes pointed his dirty finger directly at the nobleman's face. The market fell silent again. The philosopher turned to the auctioneer and ordered, "Sell me to that man over there. He needs a master." Pause. Let that sink in. A slave has just chosen his owner. No worse. A king has just chosen his subject. The shock was palpable. The inversion of reality was so violent that no one knew how to react. The phrase echoed in Xeniades' head. He needs a master. That wasn't a request. It was a diagnosis. Xeniades, rich, powerful, influential, felt the blow. He knew. He knew he was a slave to his possessions, a slave to his passions, slave of public opinion in Corinth. He had servants to wash his feet, but he had no one to wash his soul. He bought Diogenes on the spot. He paid the price and took the dog home. And that's when the real lesson began. Xeniades thought he had bought a tutor for his children. What he took home was a moral earthquake. Diogenes did not wait at the table. He sat at the table and criticized his boss's gluttony. When Xeniades complained about the heat, Diogenes laughed at his weakness. But with the children of Xeniades, with the children, it was a different story. He didn't just teach them useless rhetoric or mathematics. He taught them how to live. He cut their hair short. He took off their luxurious tunics. He forced them to walk barefoot on the hot stones and sleep on the hard ground. He taught them to hunt for their own food and to drink water with their hands. Xeniades' friends were horrified, they said. "You are allowing this madman to turn your children into beggars." But Xeniades, watching the boys, saw something he had never seen before. Strength. Eyes that wouldn't lower themselves before anyone. A fierce independence. Children did not need servants. They didn't need comfort. They were truly free. Diogenes was fulfilling his promise. He was ruling men, turning spoiled kids into kings of themselves. He ruled the house, not with orders, but by the example of a freedom so radical that it made Xeniades' wealth seem like a golden prison. The story goes that Diogenes lived with Xeniades until he was very old, and when he died, Xeniades buried him with the honors of a member of the family, erecting a pillar with the figure of a dog on top. But the crucial point is not the happy ending. The point is the market transaction. That moment when the hierarchy of the world broke down. Now comes the uncomfortable part. Think about the audacity. You are in the worst possible situation, captured, humiliated, for sale. Most of us would be begging, crying, trying to negotiate a less painful position. Please don't send me to the mines. Fear makes us small. Fear makes us accept any crumb that fate throws on the floor. But Diogenes operated on another frequency. He understood that external slavery is irrelevant if the inner citadel is intact. The pirate could sell his body, but he could not touch it at will. The auctioneer could put a price on your head, but he could not calculate the value of your mind. He needs a master. This phrase is a punch in the gut to the entire structure that supports our modern life. We spent decades accumulating things to be free. We want the car of the year, the house on the beach, the director position, the followers, the recognition. We think that when we have enough money, enough prestige, enough control, we will finally be the masters. But look at Xeniades. He had it all. And Diogenes, the man who slept in a barrel and shit in the street, looked at him and saw a slave. He saw a man who didn't know how to control his own life, who was dragged by desires, by anxieties, due to the constant fear of losing what I had. Who is the real slave? The man who wears iron chains, but whose mind travels free through the cosmos? Or the man who wears fine linen, but lives in terror of the falling stock market, of his neighbor's opinion, with the possibility of not being invited to the right party, with the next not coming? Xeniades needed a master, because he didn't know how to say no to his own impulses. He needed Diogenes to show that happiness doesn't cost drachmas. Happiness costs courage. The courage to not need it. The test. Here's what I want you to do. Not now. Not after the video. Tomorrow morning. When the alarm goes off, lie down for 5 seconds and ask, if I were sold in a slave market today, what would I say I know how to do? Don't tell me I know how to make spreadsheets or know how to edit video. That's servant skill. Diogenes didn't say, I know how to sweep floors. He said, I know how to govern men. He said, I know how to command myself so absolutely that I can teach others to do the same. Do you know how to govern yourself? Do you really know? Because governing yourself is not about having gym discipline 3 times a week. It's not waking up early. It's not bullet journaling. This is self-control cosplay. Governing yourself is looking at the worst situation in your life. Bankruptcy, illness, abandonment, the public humiliation, and still maintain an upright posture. It's having so little attachment to external things that no one can emotionally blackmail you. It's being so internally free that even physical chains become irrelevant. Diogenes was not sold. He charged entry. He reversed the power game because he understood something that most never understand. Power is never in the hands of those who have the gun or the money. Power lies in the hands of those who have the least to lose. And since Diogenes had nothing and wanted nothing, He was untouchable. He was invincible. You can kill such a man, but you cannot defeat him. You can chain him, but you cannot subdue him. The question that won't let you sleep. Xeniades was lucky. He found his master in the Corinthian slave market. You will probably go your entire life without ever finding yours. Not because it doesn't exist, but because you are afraid of what he would say about how you are living. You are afraid to look in the mirror and see not a king, but a Xeniades. Rich in possessions, poor in command, full of things, empty of will, surrounded by comfort, scared to death. Freedom has a price that most do not want to pay. The price of being considered strange, maladjusted, difficult. The price of going against the grain while everyone else runs towards the same comfortable abyss. Diogenes paid this price with pleasure. He lived as an uncrowned king, while kings lived as prisoners of their own courts. The auction did not stop in Corinth. He continues. Every day, the world asks, "What do you know how to do?" And most respond, "I know how to obey. I know how to follow rules. I know not to cause problems. I know how to pretend I'm fine." Very few have the audacity to say, "I know how to govern myself." Last thing, I will not ask you to comment on honesty or survival. That would be insulting your intelligence. But I'm going to ask you a real question, and you can answer it or not. It doesn't matter. If Diogenes saw you now, really saw you, without a filter, without a social mask, would he buy you or pass right by? Think about it while scrolling through your feed. If you've made it this far, you're not like most. Most would have left 5 minutes ago. That says something.